The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and look, this is Troy's take on the Zac Lomax signing for the Parramatta Eels. Now, this was announced a couple of days ago now, so all the excitement and jazz has gone, but I just thought I'd jump on and have a quick little say about this signing of Zac Lomax from the St George Dragons to the Parramatta Eels. Now, the deal starts in 2025 for 4 years, so a decent sized contract there for Zac. And look, I'm excited. Quality player, Zac, and can't wait to see him in the blue and gold of the Eels. He's been playing some really good footy this year on the wing for the Dragons. Now, it was reported early on in the season that wing would not be his favourite position and he wouldn't want to play there, but he certainly has shown that he has been playing some great footy, massive amount of metres this year, scored some tries, is potent in attack for the Dragons, especially off a Ben Hunt bomb, where especially against the Tigers last week, it showed that most of the kicks were bombs and he was just running through and just jumping up and out jumping the wingers of the Tigers and just getting that ball. And look, that's going to be a attacking weapon for the Parramatta Eels next year, with Mitchell Moses known as one of the biggest kickers in the NRL. So no doubt that will be used as well next year at the Eels. So where he will play at Parramatta, well, he will probably play as a centre, I guess, but with Will Penasini in the same position as Zac Lomax, where does that leave these two? Who will play left? Who will play right centre for the Eels? Do you shift one, or you're going to have to shift one if both are going to play in the centres? Which one do you shift? Do you shift the experienced player into that new position, or do you switch the younger player, the one who hasn't played NRL for that much longer than Zac? Zac debuted in 2018 and Will Penasini debuted in 2022 or 2021, I think it was. So which one do you change? Which one do you change positions? Because it does sound like he will play centre at the Parramatta Eels. And I think you give the switch to Zac, as he is the experienced one there. So I think he will pick up the grasp of the other side of the field, centre position better, quicker than Will. I would personally leave Will where he is, as let him develop more into that position, as he's been coming in leaps and bounds in the last couple of years as well. So look, I think this is a great signing by the Parramatta Eels, and look, personally, I think it's probably the major signing, the biggest major signing, I think, from Kieran Foran when he signed with the Parramatta Eels. What are your thoughts on that one? I think at the time, Kieran Foran signing with the Parramatta Eels was a massive deal, was a massive interest. There was a lot of hype about that, with his experience coming to the club at the time. was he the one that was going to take Parramatta out of where they were and into the promised land of winning premierships? Look, it obviously didn't turn out that way. It was only the one season, and I think about 7 odd games for the Eels, so it ended up a bit of a dud signing, to be honest, in the way of things. A lot of injuries at the time for Kieran, who is still going around today at the Gold Coast Titans. But in my opinion, I think that could be Zac Lomax's signing could be the biggest signing since Kieran Foran. Look, there's been other players that have come through. A lot of you guys probably might say Mitchell Moses. He came over to Parramatta mid-season. I think, look, that season that he did come over, he wasn't a massive superstar of the game like he is now. Back then, so a great signing at the time, and has proven to be a great signing for the Parramatta Eels, but I don't think he was a big major signing at that time. So there's been RCG. Was he a major signing at the time as well of his signing at the Parramatta Eels? Yeah, probably, but not a major signing like Kieran Foran, I don't think, at the time in 2016. So, look, this is a really good deal. I'm excited to see Zac come to play for the Eels. He's played 100 NRL games, so he's got plenty of experience. One Prime Minister's 13 game as well. Look, there was a little bit of talk a couple of years ago that he was on the verge of representing New South Wales as well in State of Origin. So to be talked about in those realms is pretty good. And I think, look, the way he's playing this year, it could be a smoky for the New South Wales Origin team, maybe. He could get a spot on the wing, ironically, but we'll just have to wait and see about that one. But there is also positions that he can play in the side as well. Obviously, centre is one of them, wing is one of them. Fullback has been mooted as well as a position for Zac. Obviously, with Clint Gutherson there, Clint will start off the season next year as the fullback. But we may see a little bit of a roaming position for Zac in attack and defence potentially. And Gutho may come into the front line. Zac may drop back in attack. He'll be certainly very well used, but those three positions there, they are what he can play, and no doubt he could play other ones as well, but they are his three major positions that he has played throughout his career, and that's mostly at centre, so 94 games at centre, so 94 appearances, I should say, at centre, so 82 in the NRL, but so that's his major position, and that's what he'll probably play in at Parramatta. But look, very excited about the news, and I think it's a really good boost for the Eels, and probably that player, or one of the pieces of the puzzle that probably Parramatta are looking for to take that extra step and get that elusive premiership that they need. Last year there was that talk about an X-Factor player, and whether Gutho wanted an X-Factor player or not, who knows, but he's certainly got one now, and as I said, is that the final piece of the puzzle? Maybe not. With all due respect to Joey Lussick, probably a quality hooker is probably needed just to strengthen up that spine. I think Gutho at fullback is a good get. I think that the halves of Parramatta are world-class halves. I mean, you've got Mitchell Moses, who is an Origin player. You've got Dylan Brown, who is the Kiwi 5'8". So, look, you got a world-class halves pairing there. So I think with a quality, and I'm not saying that Joey Lussick isn't quality, but he is not your superstar hooker. I mean, you can't have superstars across the park because of the salary cap, but just that little bit extra X factor in that hooking position. And look, there's been a little bit of talk about Matt Arthur potentially making his NRL debut later this year, and about him being the best hooker in the Parramatta club. I think I've seen a couple of games of his in New South Wales Cup. One I did watch was a few weeks ago now, and he was absolutely carving it up. Some great runs out of dummy half, set up a couple of tries, and he was on fire. He's interesting to see in the trials as well at the start of the year. Unfortunately, he got knocked out in one of them, but he is all the talk at the moment, and potentially maybe the reason why he hasn't made his NRL debut is maybe the fact of his last name, and the Brad Arthur being the head coach, Matt Arthur, his son. Unfortunately, we all saw what happened last time one of Brad's sons represented the Eels, obviously Jacob Arthur, and the Parramatta fans were not too nice to him. We saw those terrible, I guess you could call it, scenes of the booing of Jake Arthur, which wasn't warranted. I didn't think anyway at the time, and many others thought it wasn't warranted, so potentially that's a reason why Matt's being held back a little bit, or maybe he just isn't quite ready for first grade. But this is about Zac Lomax. I'm excited to see him come to the Eels next year. There has been talk about him coming to the Parramatta Eels in 2024 for a potential player swap. I don't think that'll happen. I don't think there's any chance of him coming to the Eels this year, and I think we'll see him in blue and gold in 2025 for 4 years. So exciting times at the Eels. As I said, maybe his signing could attract other players as well and just really strengthen up this Parramatta Eels team. So excited about this signing. Can't wait for 2025. But the job for the Parramatta Eels is 2024 and to get that elusive premiership. So, go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para